Olympic play is well underway. Josh Giddey is dominating. Does that change anything about the trade? Team Canada is 2-0 in the group of death with a win over Team Australia, and Chet Holmgren already looks vastly improved for year number 2.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for Thunder on SI Sports Illustrated, Rylan Styles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Styles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into the Olympic performance of Josh Giddey. SGA helping lift Team Canada to a 2-0 record in the group of death, and some more off-season tidbits. Today's show is brought to you by our good friends over at Game Time. Check out the Game Time app today. Create your account to get started by using your code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions do apply. Well, let's talk about the Olympics. They're underway yet again. You know, I think that when you look at what happened on Tuesday morning, when Shea and Josh Giddey go toe-to-toe for the first time as foes since the trade went down to send Josh Giddey to Chicago, the natural thing is to overreact. Because frankly, that's just the nature of what we do as like a society with sports and social media and things of that nature. And also, there's not much to discuss right now during this period of the NBA calendar, especially for a team that feels relatively set in stone. But I don't think anything that's happened so far in the Olympics is all that surprising. Josh Giddey looks 10 times better than he looked a year ago. Shea continues to look like one of the best players in the world. These things were expected. And we can start with the Josh Giddey piece of things. Is Josh Giddey playing the best basketball of his career in the Olympics with Team Australia right now? I think so. Does that change anything about the decision, the trade, or how the Thunder utilize Josh Giddey? Not in the slightest bit. The bottom line is, this was never going to happen for Josh Giddey in Oklahoma City. Especially whenever Josh Giddey did not want to come off the bench. Because the only avenue the Thunder had to give Josh Giddey a role in which he could be the guy, a role in which he could be on the ball, it was only going to come with the secondary unit. And no one can really fault him for not wanting to take on that role heading into a contract season. But you have to realize that no one believed that Josh Giddey was as bad as he showed in year 3. Year 3 was a special combination of things. Year 3 was a combination of, for the third straight season, the expectations changed. For the third straight season, the roster changed. And for the third straight season, you got further and further and further away from the ideal role for Giddey. And when they selected Josh Giddey in 2021 with the 6th overall pick, things looked vastly different. We were having conversations of, is Shea a point guard? Not only is Shea a point guard, Shea's one of the very best in the NBA. In year 2, it was Shea and Giddey at this time to start year 2. It quickly turned into, hey, Jalen Williams is really, really special. Then you add Chet to the fold. Then you go from a team that is not only this spunky young team, but the number 1 team in the West, and were contenders all the way through, They got to the 40 wins before 20 losses mark. They had top 5 offense, top 5 defense. They were a really special group. And so Josh was never put in a position to succeed in Oklahoma City, but that's because of how good everyone is in Oklahoma City, not because of any sort of malpractice with the use of Josh Giddey. He's just simply not better than Shai. He's simply not better than J-Dub. And that's okay. He can still have a very talented career, as I think he's going to have. But when you look at his Olympic play, when you look at Josh Giddey's Olympic play, it should not surprise you. He scores 15 points in the first half against Team Canada. And he's getting to the rim. He's scoring efficiently. He's getting to his spots better, attacking more aggressively. He even hits a sidestep 3, which was interesting to see. But 15 points in the first half gives Team Australia the lead. And then out of the locker room, what happens? Team Canada hunkers down defensively. They put Lou Dort on him. They get more physical. And he has costly turnovers down the stretch. And he scores 4 points total in the second half. And Team Canada wins by 10 points. So, even in this idealistic role, he still cannot engineer a team for the length of a truncated game. And he's 21 years old. He's not supposed to be able to be at that point yet. But it's just a telltale sign of like two parties who were at different times of their lifespan. Right? And I think that Josh is going to have a tremendous season in Chicago. I think that Josh is going to have way better counting stats in Chicago than Alex Caruso will have in Oklahoma City, points, rebounds, assists. But I think that Alex Caruso will be a billion times better of a fit for this specific Thunder team. He'll be a billion times more of a winning player for this specific Thunder team. And that's what matters. How do you get your team closer to a championship? And I think that Alex Caruso gets this Thunder team closer to a championship than Josh Giddey does. So as Josh Giddey's been sensational with Team Australia, he's been sensational this Olympic period. Do not fret that perhaps Oklahoma City gave up too early, because he would not look this way if he was playing off the ball. He would not look this way if he was playing next to a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and he did not want to come off the bench. So there was no pathway to tap into this side of Josh Giddey. It would have been much more the same. And if Chicago tries to play him with Kobe White and they try to play him off ball, I don't think that it'll work. I think that the way that Josh Giddey finds success will be what Team Australia is doing. Give him the keys to the team and let him grow in that role. Is that a championship recipe? Is that a contending recipe? Not at the moment. But long term, that's the way you get the best results out of Giddey, and the way you get closer to that destination, because we've seen the alternative. And that's a role Oklahoma City could have never given Josh Giddey. And I think that you look at what that trade was. You traded a guy who had the worst year as a pro in his career, and you got back the most ideal fit for your style of play and your structure possible in Alex Caruso. And in turn, Josh Giddey gets to go have a fantastic year. Josh Giddey, I think, will have a career high in points, rebounds, assists. I think Josh Giddey will play his best basketball. I think he'll be more efficient this year, even while those things uptick. And he'll thoroughly increase his payday in this upcoming summer. But again, that stuff was never going to happen in Oklahoma City. So as you evaluate and look at Olympic play, you have to keep that in mind. You have to keep that at the forefront of how you evaluate Josh Giddey's season this year. Because I promise you, there is going to be 7 screenshots per day on Twitter of their stat head comparisons between Giddey and Caruso, and Giddey's points, rebounds, assists will be lit up green by a long shot, I think, compared to Caruso. But I would still promise you that Caruso is doing more to win basketball games than Giddey is for this Thunder team. So I would not let Giddey's success for Team Canada or the success I would project him to have, because I think he will have success in Chicago, cloud the decision made, at the start of this offseason. But coming up, let's talk Team Canada on the other side, the winning side of this battle with Shea and Lou Dort. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at Game Time. I love Game Time. I think Game Time is spectacular because with Game Time, you get last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. And what's so good about Game Time is, on top of the last-minute tickets and last-minute deals and flash deals and zone deals, I have two huge things I love about Game Time. Number one, they're all in pricing. You can toggle this feature, and it shows you the entire cost up front. No surprise fees at checkout. You know exactly what the price is. I love that feature. I also love the view from your seat. You click on your ticket, you click on the seat, you can see the sight lines, you can see what your experience will be from that seat, which makes it 1,000 times better for buying tickets, especially to venues you've never been in before, and even some venues where you have been in them before, but you haven't quite been at that vantage point in the venue. So I think that it's a great feature to have, so you know exactly what you're buying at Game Time. Go check it out today at Game Time. Create your account. Use code LOCKEDNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Create your account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Create your account. Last minute prices, last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. Folks, this is going to be a very fun Olympic period. We're currently looking at the group stage, which is like the group of death for Team Canada as they face Greece in one. They face Team Australia in one. They still have to take on Spain. Like, this is going to be a very tough group to get out of, but going 2-0, you really put yourself in the driver's seat of getting out of it. But Spain is going to be, of course, a very tough competition for Team Canada. Now, this was a massive win against Team Australia. They won by 10, but this was a dogfight. This was a close game. This was one of the most fun games of the Olympics because you look at this contest, and Shea gets 2 early fouls, and they sit him for the majority of the first half. I mean, he gets pulled, and I think that you really see the tangible nature of, like, what Mark always talks about, of not fouling your players out, right? By taking them off the floor and worrying and fretting about the possibility of them getting another foul put on them. Because he got taken out so feverishly with 2 quick fouls, he ends the night with 2 fouls. And I get it. Like the Olympic, style of play is different because you only get 5 of them before you're fouled out. But, you did all that worrying and sitting Shea for a guy who never picked up another foul again, the rest of the game. In a game in which you had nothing going for you early on. Couldn't score efficiently, especially for Team Canada early on. Team Australia had a great first half. They led at the break. A back and forth game with like 10 lead changes, by the third quarter. And Shea was cooking. I mean, Shea was 5 for 6 to start out. He ends the night with 16 points, and he had 4 rebounds, 3 assists. 3 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. Shea is just Shea. Like he looks every bit the MVP. He looks every bit the unstoppable force that he did in Oklahoma City last year and for these last couple of seasons. It has to be just so demoralizing to try to play defense against SGA, because some of the shots he pulls off, there's nothing you can do but shake your head and get back, because you just play this textbook defense and this suffocating defense, and the ball bounces the right way for Shea. He's got that immaculate touch. He only needs a little bit of airspace to get the ball in the hoop, and Shea is just a spectacular player. I think he looks a little bit more explosive or more quicker in the Olympic play. That could just be, he's dominating, and you haven't seen him play in a long time, so it just feels like you're looking for every little thing to be improved. I think that what is factually, without a doubt, without question, improved is his playmaking, because when you look at how he's playmaking in this setting, he's not passing as a last resort. He's doing whatever it takes to create the advantage for his team. Right? It's not, hey, I tried to drive, got cut off. Hey, let's kick this out and reset everything. It's seeing the floor very well. It's evaluating who has the numbers. It's getting the ball to an advantageous spot. And so facilitating the offense, I think, is taking a huge stride for him with the Olympics and with Team Canada. And you look at him as a player, he's gotten better every single year of his career. And every single year we ask ourselves, well, how can it get better than this? We've been asking ourselves that since he was a fringe all-star, and now he's a back-to-back top 5 finisher for the MVP award. And I think he's going to get even better, because I do think that he's learned the ability to see the floor better and to play make. And you saw, like, I think that the stuff that is forward-facing from the Thunder, of like how Sam Presti talked about at his exit interview, how important passing is and how important it is to win with the pass in the postseason. I think that could give you a glimpse into what these guys are trying to improve on. And whenever you get to see Shai play, you see that he's taken a step forward in playmaking and in passing and in, of course, facilitating an offense to create advantages from the pass and not from the dribble, not from the drive, not from isolation scoring. So I think that he will take another step this year, and he'll take a step forward in a big way. And if that's the case, for the guy that you can make a very strong case should have won the award last year, and now retroactively, a lot of former players, a lot of media are talking about how Shai should have won MVP last year. D. Wade mentioned it on the broadcast. You've really aligned yourself with the possibility of Shai coming back from the Olympics, a setting in which countless players have talked about how playing in the Olympics the summer before the season allowed them to have their best season of their career, allowed them to go on and greatly improve their game. So whatever Olympic boost you get, whatever just off-season development you get, and whatever boost you get from playing with a team that will be the best in the West, that will be better than last year. Because I think that what people miss, going back to the Josh Giddey conversation, is you look at this starting lineup of Josh Giddey and him with Shai, and you say, well, they were still a +7 or +8 or whatever the number ended up being. But yeah, you really had to work and labor to make that fit work. Whereas, like, I can't imagine what the jump will be in terms of the eye test of putting Caruso in that spot, who more seamlessly fits what OKC wants to do as a catch-and-shoot shooter, as a cutter, as a secondary playmaker, and as a guy who defenses have to respect. And if they don't, can make them pay more consistently. So I just think that this is a season in which it's setting up for him to be the MVP. It's setting up for this to be a classic case of, like, okay, should he have won it last year? Yeah, probably. So let's give it to him this year. Because not only will he have deserved it with the stats, he'll have deserved it with having the best team in the West in the toughest conference again, and he'll have deserved it with, like, hey, he was right there last year, and you gave it to Jokic. Like this is how things typically pan out. And I think that if he does carry over this playmaking improvement, and you have something tangible, like he really improved in this area, it can allow him to reach that new height. But Shai's been spectacular. Team Canada has been so fun to watch. RJ Barrett has been awesome for Team Canada. Jamal Murray has not been awesome. What is going on with Jamal Murray? What is happening there? So I just think that it's interesting to see how these things are panning out. Lou Dort. Lou Dort is playing exactly like Lou Dort plays. Like, this is the same Dort you see nightly in Oklahoma City. And I think that that's a good thing. I think it's a great thing that he's starting for Team Canada. I think it's a great thing that he's playing this same role for Team Canada. because you're not developing bad habits. You're not developing a on-off switch of like having to do more for Team Canada than you're expected to do in OKC, and how do you put the toothpaste back in the tube? Like that consistency of that role. We are just getting more valuable reps in high-stake games, high-level games. Can never be a bad thing. I think that we still forget how young Lou Dort is in the grand scheme of things. Like it feels like Lou Dort's been here forever, and it feels like he's tapped out as a player. He's tapped out of development. That's just not the case. He's just still exceptionally young. And we've seen him get better each year. We've seen him get better as the role goes down, as the expectations go down on what he should be tasked with offensively. He's gotten more efficient, gotten better as a player. And so these reps at Team Canada, where he is needing to hit big shots, like he had a couple big threes in this one. He had a fantastic steal and head down the other way, and transition bucket in this one to really swing the game, stealing Josh Giddey's, taking his cookies. Like those things matter. Those things are huge. And we'll see how it translates to the NBA level here in a couple months. Coming up, let's talk about Chet Holmgren and the improvements that it looks like he's made in these new summer workout videos. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Folks, when you look at this team, when you look at this season, I think a lot will hinge or could swing on like Chet and J-Dub. Because if those two guys are prepared and ready to be the 2 and 3 option, in whatever order you want them to be, who's the 2, who's the 3, who really cares? But if they're ready to be contributors at the top 3 level at the biggest moments of the season, in the playoffs, on these big stages, this is a championship team. This is going to be the NBA championship roster. Like if those two guys are ready. If those two guys aren't ready, then it's still going to be a successful season. They're still going to win a lot of games. They're still going to have a quality playoff run, but they won't quite win a championship. What the Thunder have done, as we've said on this podcast countless times since the offseason is kind of wrapped up for the Thunder, what they have done is they've prepared themselves for when these two guys are ready, when these two guys play at a championship level, this team is ready to win as well. The supporting cast is ready to embrace them as the top 3 options on the team with Shea, J-Dub, and Chet. So as soon as that top 3 solidifies themselves as a championship level nucleus, they have all the tools and resources to go win it. And when the Thunder made the move to trade Josh Giddey, one thing that Sam Presti mentioned was that this, of course, you take out some playmaking from the roster, and they're expecting to supplement that loss with a guy like Chet Holmgren. And so what does his year 2 jump look like? I think Chet Holmgren is far too talented and has far too great of a work ethic to not improve next year. I know he had a fantastic rookie season, but I still think that he'll continue to grow and continue to evolve as a player. And so in the latest, workout videos with other NBA veterans, you're seeing him look like a vastly improved player. Now, sprinkle a lot of grains of salt around this conversation, because every year we see these workout videos of other players, and some of them pan out, some of them don't. But the bottom line is we can only talk about what's in front of us, and what's in front of us is this video package of Chet Holmgren looking so improved as a shot creator that if it translates and if that portion of his game is real, then this team will be playing Boston in the NBA Finals. It's that simple. Like, if Chet can get to his spots that way, shoot over the top of people that way, and be that kind of offensive force in the NBA, then this team will win the West. And then you've got a series against the best team in basketball, and you see what happens. And it's very tough to win 2 years in a row. So I think that, yes, you can take this any way you want to, right? Is the glass half full or half empty? Do these workout videos matter at all or not at all? But when you combine this video with what Sam Presti mentioned, with the background info that we have on Chet, you've got to feel very excited about what that looks like, what that could look like in this upcoming season. And if he's ready to take that step forward as a scorer, then this whole team around him gets pushed and elevated higher. Because we've seen what Giddey can do. I know he had a bad series against Dallas. But we have a larger body of work of him being a very talented offensive player than that one series against Dallas in his first playoff run. So you can expect an uptick from Giddey as well. And that's what's been so masterful about these postseason moves. Yes, it's a lot of pressure to put on those two guys, and they're still exceptionally young. And if they're not ready this year, there's no need to panic. But that's why you make these moves for Hartenstein, for Caruso, is that you're not having to be reactionary. You're being proactive. You're not being reactive. They're not sitting around and waiting. Okay, let's just wait until we know for a fact that these two guys will be able to carry the load for a championship team. They are gambling. They are betting on those two guys to join Shea as those championship level scorers and players. And I think that's a great bet. And that's very first second that those two guys are ready for that moment. The very first series that those two guys play that way. They have everything around them. They have the coach. They have the supporting cast. They have the stability. They have the role to go win a championship. And that's why Oklahoma City can be one of those surprise teams this year. Can be one of those teams where you might think to yourself, they still got to take those incremental steps. They still got to go down the journey, go down the path a little bit more. It's none of that. I think it fully falls on Chet and J-Dub. And I think that this is a bet worth taking because I think that eventually, whether it is this year or it is next year or it is the year after that, eventually those two guys will be ready to win a championship and championship quality players next to Shea. And you want to capitalize on each and every run. You don't want to wait for the opportunity to strike. For example, like let's say that next year Chet and J-Dub look like a championship duo with Shea and making that a trio. You don't want to have missed that first run and not been prepared for that possibility. You are prepared for that possibility with the moves that you've made. And now you're just waiting on those two guys to come around as we, I think, all expect them to be able to, whether it is this year or in the future. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun watching this team night in and night out. It's kind of a whole new ball game here. We're going to have to see them gel back together. And then there's been some changes, of course, to the starting lineup. Primarily, Josh Giddey started 218 straight games. He did not hit the pine until the last two games of his Thunder career. So, that's going to be different. The rotation is going to be a bit different. Seeing that all come together will be interesting, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be here previewing it all. We'll be here talking about it all on the Locked On Thunder podcast. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast from, including on YouTube. Folks, basketball season's not that far away. NBA, not that far from tipping. But you know what's even closer? College football. And a lot of you love college football. At the Locked On Podcast Network, we have for you Locked On Sooners. We have for you Locked On Pokes. We have for you Locked On SEC for the OU fans now in the SEC. We have for you Locked On Big 12 for Poke fans still in the Big 12. And we have Locked On insert whatever your favorite team is. Go find them over there for your second listen today. And until tomorrow, when we're back on Locked On Thunder, be good and be good to one